All right, guys, welcome to the David Ellefson Show. I am Joshua Toomey, and that is David Ellefson, fresh off the Back to the Beginning concert over there in Birmingham, England. Man, just tell me how it went for you, just overall for you right out the gate.
Well, first of all, swag for right. The t-shirts, like the whole city was wearing purple Masters of Reality. I mean, everywhere you went, got this super awesome Black Sabbath scarf.
Oh, nice.
The date on it, right? Of course, back in then. And then I went to Selfridges, which is, it's so British, isn't it? Selfridges. And, these are the Villa Park home team. Cool. Yeah, colors here. And got this super awesome Lzzy Osbourne scarf. So I'll be looking super baller. When I'm out and about. So that's good. So first, I want to start with this first because this is the most fun part. Yeah. Then, so look, first of all, let's start at the beginning. So flew in Tuesday, met Jakey Lee right away. So that was great. I'd met him once before at NAMM because he's Charvel. I'm a Jackson Charvel, so that's part of the same company with Fender. And so it was great to see him. And he and I were on 2 songs together. We were on The Ultimate Sin and Shot in the Dark, which are his 2 songs anyway. So super excited about that. So it was great to connect with him right away. I think the thing is we all knew each other, right? So coming into this wasn't really that intimidating as far as playing with each other, and I've done a ton of these all-star things. Of course, I have Metal Allegiance, so I'm pretty well versed on all this stuff. And Tom Morello, God bless him, man, that guy must have worked months on this thing, putting all this together, But our Super Group A rehearsal was Wednesday at Villa Park, the stadium where the event was held. And they basically, when you come in, I think it was like the clubhouse. There's like a huge lobby. They pipe and draped, sectioned it off. They had full monitor rig. The size of the stage we rehearsed on was exactly the size that we would be on the big stage a few days later. The same amps, the same drums, full monitors. They were recording everything so we could take home a recorded version of our rehearsal. So totally pro, as you would expect it to be. So the rehearsal was great. And Tom, was basically just, a bit like wrangling cat, get everybody on the deck, get everybody there. Okay, let's go. Let's take this one from the top, I think my songs, me and Mike Borden were chatting a little bit earlier on text and phone. We even had a phone call, and I know Adam Wakeman pretty well, the keyboard player, who plays with Ozzy and Sabbath. And, his dad is Rick Wakeman, the famous, awesome keyboard player from Yes. So, Adam's grown up in this world, and he's a fantastic musician in his own right, singer, keyboardist, guitarist. So, it's nice to have him as just a real backbone. And he keys for everybody. He was on both super groups. He played with Ozzy, with Sabbath. I mean, whoever needed keyboards, he was there, kind of to help. So no, saw right away, Frank, Bello and Scott Ian. Scott was on one of my songs. I guess he was on Sweet Leaf. So first we ran through the Ultimate Sin. We kind of all deferred to Jake. It's so funny because Jake is he's such a quiet, mild-mannered guy. And, I saw him in 1982, right when he joined Ozzy. This was probably 6 months before I went to LA, in 1983 after high school. So I saw him in my senior year of high school, and I was like, dude, this guy is, just had the swagger, man. I mean, just, the volume knob, the whole thing, man, was just so badass. So it was a thrill to play on a couple of his songs, and I love Phil Suzanne, and Phil Suzanne wrote and I think played bass on that whole album, even though Greg Chason, I think, is credited with it. I'm pretty sure Phil Suzanne would have played on Shot in the Dark, since that was his tune. So I was thrilled. I got handed one set of songs back in January or February from Tom Morello. Then I was like, no, wait, forget those. Take these instead. And I learned that's, that, and he just said, hey, stay fluid, so, Tom had a lot of moving parts, man, and a lot of people to work out. But my band was pretty solid with, and we had no idea who we were playing with, for all the months leading up to this. And by the way, first of all, KK Downing got me on the gig. He messaged me back in early January, right before NAMM, and I said, would you want to do it? I said, absolutely. And he had mentioned Tom Morello was doing this Judas Priest movie, so they were buddies. And so that then looped me in with everybody, and Andy Copping from Download, Live Nation, and everybody. So that was right during NAMM, quite honestly. So anyway, getting in the loop on that. And then just musically from there, it was just working with Tom Morello, really, kind of going through everything. And it was just kind of stay fluid. And I was like, hey, whatever you want to throw me, I'm in, I'll take whatever you give me. So that was what it was leading up to it. So, then really kind of about the week beforehand, we started getting more information of who, what, when, where, be here, be there, so, they kept it very guarded. Obviously they didn't want information leaking out. They didn't want stuff on social media for all the obvious reasons, to make it the event that it turned out to be. But yeah, right. So we get there till the first day, going over some endings and just little, musical things. Nuno Betancourt played on, like 20 songs or something,
He was my MVP of the day, man. He crushed.
Dude, he was amazing, man. I mean, and the guy can play anything, he's great. Yeah. So yeah, it's funny. This was I took home the, this was in the dressing room, back to the beginning. So basically Ultimate Sin, Shot in the Dark, Sweet Leaf. Then I peeled off. Frank Bello comes out, plays Believer, which was great. Oh, I just stood side stage for that. That was freaking awesome. And Sleep Token 2 on drums. And I got to appreciate really, how big that band is, especially over on this side of the pond, And then, man, Youngblood. Dude. I did not know who he was, but man, dude, that guy came out, and when he sang Changes, that was like Freddie Mercury at Wembley for live.
That's what I keep seeing it, compared to. And that was funny because I was actually at work when the live stream played your part. So I kind of stopped, watched you, and then I was listening to some stuff, and then I logged out for a minute and did some stuff and came back. Right. And I didn't hear the Youngblood thing, but all I saw on social media was Youngblood. And I'm like, all right, I got to check this out. So today we sat down and watched it. And at the beginning, I was like, I don't see why everybody's so hyped about this. And by the end of it, I was like, oh my God, this dude is awesome. Like, he crushed.
Dude, he's unbelievable, man. I did not know who he was, and I sure do now. It was absolutely amazing. But then moving on, from in my band, Dave Draiman, who I know well, he did a duet with Dave on Super Collider. So when we were on that tour, we had his other band Device out with us. So he would come up and sing on the encore that song every night. And so I already know what it's like to be on stage with Dave. He's killer, David, I should call him. Fantastic. So I thought he did great. He's just a powerhouse voice and everything. But yeah, it was just great. I love walking into these situations. I love playing with different musicians, it's so fun. And then, to watch, Believer and Changes, and, so, and then, so the on Thursday was Supergroup B. It was their rehearsal. And, so I went down there for a bit to see a little bit of that. And because then there was the photo shoot with Ozzy after that. So, and Metallica sound check that day. So people were coming in sound checking, there's all these moving parts, it had all these schedules. Some of it didn't, you kind of used what applied to you and ignored the rest. Load in, for Alice in Chains and Metallica and, so that I caught a little bit of that. It was great because, they're playing Rock Candy, and, and Sammy Hagar shows up, right as they're finish it and does the final scream.
Yeah.
Mic drop. I was like, dude, no, that's how to roll in like a rock star, So that was cool. And, Rudy Sarzo, man, again, another MVP with that man. Because, he was playing a ton of stuff. Chad Smith, I've seen the Chili Peppers. I've seen Chickenfoot, what a fun drummer to watch play, man.
Oh,
I mean, he is just larger than life. He's a big sound. He's got big chops. He's having a lot of fun. He's one of those big, fun, rowdy drummers, and, I think on the deck, I saw Travis Barker there. I did not know him until this gig, and, to see him play was great. Khloe Kardashian was there, his wife. And so this was definitely a celebrity A-list superstar kind of event, everybody.
How are they treating all that with so many friends, family, musicians? Like, I mean, the backstage had to have been nuts. Were they cattle herding everybody every which way? And
it was pretty segregated. That's why, again, rehearsals Wednesday for our supergroup B on Thursday, photo shoot that night. It was great to go into the photo shoot because Metallica guys came in since they had just finished sound checking. Steven Tyler came in. I don't know that he was announced on the gig, right? In fact, so he was a special surprise. I mean, I'm looking here to see if he was. So I thought that was a surprise. Even Sammy Hagar, I didn't know if he was announced.
I think Sammy was announced, but
was he announced?
Steven maybe, but Steven sounded great. Like,
he sounded awesome.
From us interviewing Tom Hamilton the other day, and we're like wondering what would happen with Aerosmith in the future. I was kind of worried about him coming out there, and I thought he looked great. I thought he sounded great. I was just like, Jesus Christ, this is awesome.
Yeah, that photo shoot moment was great, right? As we were told, everybody put your phones away. They're going to be bringing Ozzy in. I'm going to set him on the throne there, and that was first any of us had seen Ozzy, and so I got to go up and say hello to him and just reintroduce myself to him. Since I hadn't seen him since we'd been on tour back in 2013 down in South America. So that was cool. And, he was very aware. He was very in tune. He was awake and aware and knew what was up. And so everybody was saying hello. Jakey Lee, I don't think had talked to him in 38 years. So there were some moments like that were cool. Sharon's lovely. I brought her and Ozzy some coffee, some Ellefson coffee, so nice. That's always my way in, right? Is, hey, here's some coffee. But she's so sweet. She's great. And there is only one Sharon Osbourne. Let me tell you. You know what I mean? For her to be, raise a family, be a wife, manage a rock star. Manage all of that. It's a big wheelhouse. So, but she's so chill, and obviously she's a pro, and she was raised in that world. Her whole life, because her dad, Don Arden, managed Black Sabbath and had Jet Records. And so, it's just that whole wheelhouse, But so it was great to see her, and big hugs and all that kind of stuff. And Steven Tyler, same with him. It was great to see him. And it's interesting because, look, there's been a Megadeth history around some of this stuff, right? Obviously,
right. Yeah.
Thrown off the Aerosmith tour. So, when I see Steven, I said, hey, I said, yeah, David Ellefson, he knew I was, of course. But I said, hey, David, he goes, yeah. I said, and now former Megadeth. And he just rolled his eyes like, whatever.
He didn't try to kick you out of the Supergroup A, did he?
No. It's almost like it endears me more to people, now being not in the band. You know what I mean? It's like, now I can hang out with Metallica. I can hang out with Aerosmith. Everything's cool, because there's always some hostility there, or some history, that's like, oh God,
All right, guys, we have a killer Louder Than Life giveaway for Louder Than Life 2025, Louisville, Kentucky, at the Highland Festival grounds. Bands like Slayer, Rob Zombie, Marilyn Manson, Avenged Sevenfold, Sleep Token, Breaking Benjamin, Deftones, Evanescence are among over 160 bands appearing over 6 stages over 4 days. And we here at the David Ellefson Show have 6, count them 6, 4-day festival passes for you guys. So what I want you guys to do is go to either YouTube or Facebook, like and share this episode, and then also comment your favorite guest of the David Ellefson Show so far. That will give you an entry into this contest. And once again, it is 6 4-day general admission passes to Louder Than Life. And there are so many anniversaries and reunions for this year's Louder Than Life. You've got 12 Stones. You've got Accept doing a 50th anniversary, Acid Bath, Cavalera. The brothers are playing the Sepultura record Chaos AD in full. That's worth the price of admission alone. Chimera, Chiodos, Crossfade, Dope doing a 25-year anniversary set. Down, Fear Factory, From First to Last, ICP, Kitty, Let Live, Rob Zombie doing Astro Creep 2000 in its entirety. I saw that once at Riot Fest. It was awesome. The almighty Snot, Spineshank, and don't forget Slayer. You're going to get to see Slayer for free. So 6 4-day festival passes. Head over to the YouTube page or the Facebook page. Comment your favorite David Ellefson show guest so far. You will be entered, and keep checking back. And we will announce the winner on July 21st. Now back to the show.
But I'm very lucky about that.
How were people treating you? I mean, were people like, great to see you? Like, oh my, like
100%.
I mean,
it was
so you could have been out, on the sidelines a little bit lately.
Well, I think my transitions have clearly been pretty public. And I think, everybody is excited to see me because I think, that how everything went down with me, I think people feel like, that could have been handled very differently. And, so I think everybody was, I think my own discography, my legacy speaks for itself. You know what I mean? Just from the musical credibility of it. So I think that always speaks first when you're in the room. I try to come in and be gracious and kind and thankful to be there. And of course, that goes a long way too. And as big as rock stars were in this room, nobody had an air of, hey, where's my limo? Where's my handler? Where's my deli? Where's my lobster? And, there's none of that. And I think probably when you do something for charity like this was, that immediately levels the playing field, even more so with this case, knowing, that this was a retirement party, if you will, for Black Sabbath and for us, that puts a whole different spirit around it, but it wasn't sad. It wasn't morose. It wasn't a downer. It was super uplifting, to realize that, look, Aerosmith, Sammy Hagar, as big as these guys are, Black Sabbath and Ozzy are one bigger, you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Like they predated all of us. I mean, Sabbath is in the same era as Deep Purple and Led Zeppelin and, the greatest of the great, and I think, and everybody knows that they're like, hey, we all bow to the altar of this. This is bigger than any one of our careers. It's bigger than all of us, and so I think that just made the spirit of it so cool. And it's interesting. I think we weren't worried about playing with each other because that just it's an interaction. And Tom Morello did really good pairing everybody up. I felt like I was paired with a good group of people that we would, know each other's stuff well. I think putting Rudy and Chad with, Steven Tyler and with Sammy Hagar, they're of an age, they're of a genre. They probably grew up on some similar musical roots, so sometimes it's just pairing people with the right, with the right setting, so he did great with that. But, I think once we, we moved to, we did a sound check on Friday and Jason Momoa was there. And I know he's a bass player. In fact, he was on the cover of Bass Player magazine. And Joel MacGyver, who was the editor at that time, he also wrote my book with me, More Like My Life with Death. And so he hit me and said, hey, send in a couple questions for Jason and we'll run it by him. And so I had a question or two that, we ran past him in the interview and I knew he was, a fan of my playing. So he was great, and he was, again, the right super famous guy. He's Aquaman and everything else, right?
Minecraft movie, all that,
Yeah, but also a metalhead, and a bass player. So it was super cool. Yeah, so sound check was great. It was cold that night. Friday night, man, it was cold. We were all looking at the weather, going, "All right, is it going to rain? What's going to do?" And man, I tell you, yesterday. So we're doing this on Sunday, right? So yesterday, it was just a perfect day. You couldn't even believe that it was just awesome. Except, I stood side stage for all of it. And you were asking, they basically had us when we played. They really wanted you to kind of move you off the deck and get you out of the way. Of course, most of us didn't, but everybody's kind of coming and going. I mean, I felt like we moved into Villa Park for like a week, right? I mean, we were all there coming and going, over to catering, back to the stage, over to rehearsal. I mean, it was like a big workplace, like it felt like that was our home. And, I think, yesterday we were just so blessed, man, with the weather. It was so cool. Except right when I went in front of house, I was watching Ozzy, and that was, really was everybody's like, "Oh my God, is this?" And I saw the sound check, so I knew it was going to sound good. I saw Mike Inez the first day I got there, and he goes, "Oh my God, I just did full rehearsal all day with Ozzy." He said, "It's great. Ozzy sounds awesome." Mike Inez also plays bass, not only in Alice in Chains, was in Ozzy, of course, so he'd play bass for Ozzy, but he's also Elton John's bass player. So I'm like, man, wow. This guy's got some killer gigs, man. So, and Mike is just such a sweet guy and great player. But yeah, he said right away, "Oh no, it sounds great. Oz is in good spirits and singing good." And then I heard the sound check. I guess that was Thursday night. He sounded cool, man. It sounded good. So you knew it was going to work. And then, then come show day, Mastodon kicks it off. Killer, and everybody before us. And, you're kind of anticipating, even though, up, I guess, and through my group, which is, kind of the midway point of the afternoon, we all only played 3 songs, right? And and everybody had to play a Sabbath tune. So like Anthrax, played 2 Anthrax, a Sabbath, Lamb of God, two of theirs, and 1 Sabbath kind of thing. So that's why we did basically, we did 2 Ozzy and then, sweet Sabbath tunes. So, you get on stage, you're excited, you can't wait to get out there and play. You get up, you jam. And, the funny thing was we get announced and we get on stage and, and Jakey Lee and Jake doesn't come out, right?
Yeah,
and
they get on. Where was Jake? Yeah,
and they get on the mic. They're like, "Hey, Jakey Lee to the stage," and it was so funny how it happened, and he just kind of comes sauntering out like, "I know, I'm the shit," and
everyone's here for me.
Yeah, he was, he got the hero's welcome as he should, man. I mean, he is truly one of the icons of the Ozzy legacy, and Lzzy Hale is fucking killer, man. She sings her ass off. She's great. And, so I felt like our set went down pretty good. I mean, it's over in a blink of an eye, 3 songs goes by pretty quickly.
Yeah. I've done these jams. I mean, I'm nowhere near what these jams are, but I'm just saying, like, you practice, you rehearse, you do all this stuff for 3 songs, you do your 3 songs and it's over. And like, you're just getting the blood pumping, you're just getting everything going, and then all of a sudden you're done for the day. That's the only.
You got one half sweaty T-shirt, from the gig, So check it out. So I had the silver bass. I bought some stickers.
Nice.
I stickered it up, made it look good. So I knew, I needed to bring 2 basses because there was 2 tunings. The Ultimate Sin was in 1 tuning, and then the bass I was really excited about. We did this as a custom shop. I hit Jackson Guitars back, I think, in April. And they said, "Man, we got to do something special for this, like this." And they were totally on board, So we did this beast, which is the silver burst. Or I'm sorry, the purple burst. And
awesome.
Isn't it cool, man? And I said, we got to get a Sabbath cross on here. So we did a purple burst on this. EMG pickups, all the rest of the stuff. And this is a piece of chrome that they did in the Nashville custom shop, the Fender custom shop. Put that on there. And, just super badass. So it's one of my basses, but
nice.
Yeah, I did it in the model shop, they call it. So this neck through. So this one, I don't know. This will just sit in the vault like forever,
I'll take that one on tour with Primer 55.
Yeah. Hey, if Sharon wants to do a museum or something in Birmingham, I'll just give it there. I'll just put it up on the wall, to me, that was, I saw Robert Trujillo had a purple bass. I think James might have had a purple guitar. Everybody a few people had a few things, but
one of my favorite customs was Gary Holt's Officer Holt guitar. Did you see that?
I didn't see it. And in fact, I wasn't on the deck for Slayer of all things.
Yeah.
So no, I heard them, but I didn't see their set.
Go back and when you go back and watch, he has a blue guitar and it has a badge embedded in it that says Officer Holt on it. I was just like, that is the most ridiculous guitar I've ever seen.
Typical Gary. I love that. So here's another thing. So obviously we'll get back to the show here in a minute. Going into town, me and Whitfield Crane went into town on, I guess it was Wednesday during the day before rehearsal. Was it?
Yeah.
I think so. Yeah, we went into town. I think it was Wednesday. And so, they had all those murals. That guy is doing those murals, just super cool. We went up to the bridge, where they have the seat with the four, faces and all that. That was cool. There was Albert Selfridge's. Of course, they had all this cool, unique merch. So I bought a couple things there. I went, was it Friday? I think I went to the museum there, which is there's like an actual, a history art museum there. And so you go up the first floor and there's this cool, big hallway right into the museum. And it was all a big Ozzy exhibit and super great stuff. I posted a bunch of stuff, but in the store, they had this lager. And of course, I don't drink, but I bought some for guys like you, some Sabbath, some Paranoid lager. And then they had this really bitchin' hot sauce.
Oh, there you go.
So that's kind of rad. So I get a few of those things. So I
love that all my favorite metal bands have turned into coffee and barbecue sauce.
And then and I know so many people that have hot sauce, and I've been approached about it, and I might actually do one finally.
Yeah.
But all these people, hot. I'm like, how do you have a bottle of hot sauce at a show?
Yeah.
How do you sell it? I mean, there's, anymore. If you even have a bottle of water, they make you put it in a cup. They don't want anything you could throw or do any of that stuff with. But
somebody buys a bottle of your hot sauce and pings it off your head during your show.
Totally. Geezer Butler's tech is a buddy of mine, Terry Geezer Butler, and his tech Terry Welty. But he gave me some cool Geezer picks.
Oh, nice.
From the events, which are pretty rad. So, so anyway, no, that kind of stuff was cool. And then, so let's go back to the show. So, so we do the show, we get through the whole night. Of course, we go out and watch Ozzy. I mean, Mom, I'm coming home.
Dude.
Now, here's an interesting thing. So we're out there. That's the Ozzy set finishes. And the Mama, and I see Mike Tempesta from Jackson Guitars came out and he teched for me. And so he was there. And of course, Jakey Lee's clients, I think somebody from Gojira, Lamb of God, a bunch of us were there. Right. So, so we're down in the audience. I figured, okay, this is one, I got to go front house, be down in the audience, just feeling it, So we did. And Papa was there from Ghost, other known as Tobias, of course, because he wasn't in Regalia. So he was there. Rob Caggiano was there. There's like all kinds of people there. It was down in the pit, and these, I guess, like some people didn't have passes to get back. So all of a sudden I'm seeing a whole bunch of people down there. So Whit Crane comes around. He says, hey, come back here. So he takes me down this cool, through the barricade and into this little kind of triangle, and Rob Trujillo's there. So we're getting ready to watch Sabbath. Right. And Whit tells me that Mama, I'm coming home, which seemed like it was written for the event. Right. I mean, that lyric, I don't think there was a dry eye in the place when that thing was.
No, I'm not too proud to say that I was at home with tears in my eyes. Dude. Ozzy's crying. I'm crying. The crowd's crying. It was crazy, man.
Now, Lemmy wrote those lyrics with Ozzy. Now, Whit says that song is about England.
Oh.
I did not know that. And if it is today, I was thinking about it. Times have changed, times are strange, right? Whatever they are. And what is the other one? It seems you could have been a better friend to me, right? I was thinking, now that's interesting to write a song about your country coming home. And so I was thinking about Lemmy, maybe Ozzy, Black Sabbath over the years, about how relevant that might be, to an English artist. They moved to America, they live in Los Angeles, very different from England, right? Especially in those days, right? And so I'm thinking, I don't know if it's true, but if it is, it was fitting, right? And then, of course, just this personal thing with Ozzy. So, hey, everybody, David and Josh here, and just want to let you know about Rockabilia, our new partners here on the show. And you can visit them and enter David10 for 10% off on any of your purchases. So some cool stuff they have there, Josh.
Yeah, it's pretty awesome company. I mean, if you're of my generation of the, we go to the magazine aisle, and, when it was a print magazine, and, Rockabilia was in every Metal Edge and Metal Maniacs and whatever else, and you would circle every Megadeth t-shirt you wanted, or Metallica or Slayer or whatnot. So super pumped to have Rockabilia on with the David Ellefson show. And, just a few things. They've got over 500,000 items over at rockabilia.com, including staples like the Master of Puppets shirts, Rest in Peace shirts. They do limited edition exclusive drops each month. And the one thing that they wanted to stress was everything is 100% authentic, no bootlegs over there at rockabilia.com. So that's obviously a plus there too.
Cool. So the money goes where it's supposed to go. So, all right, excellent. All right, so check it out. Rockabilia, David 10 for 10% off. Check it out, rockabilia.com. I think with Ozzy during the show, what I think the touching thing is when he said, he goes, it's been 6 years since I've been on stage. And I think that, you really, look, right? You're a musician, you record, you tour. I do. Any musician, you go, oh my God, can you imagine being out of it for 6 years? And for some, we have. I never have for that long, but I've had breaks away from it, and to be, for him, to have that break, and again, like he's talked about the health thing, it was fucking with him, and. So that to me is what I connected with is, oh my God, to not feel the stage and all that goes with the interaction with the audience, making music for your audience, that's a terrifying feeling to think that, oh my God, I remember when I broke my foot on tour back in 2016 and I went, oh my God, is this it? Am I going to miss the next tour? Am I not going to go to South America? I've had small little physical injuries, I'm going, oh my God, is this the one where my hand never works again, or my foot, it never is, of course, thank God. But, there is that. And I think that's the thing for me that I think empathized with Ozzy. So, after that was done, I'm standing there next to Robert Trujillo and his family, and Whit is there with me, and it's interesting. They start the bell, right, the church bell for Black Sabbath to take the stage, and suddenly we had this beautiful sunny day. Now this big black dark ominous cloud starts coming over the stage. You go, motherfucker, this is it. Just like in Sofia, Bulgaria with the Big Four. Right. When I'm estimating when the cloud's going to hit, I was pretty sure it was going to be Slayer. Next thing you know, it's during Holy Wars right out of the gate for us. Right. So playing in the rain is awesome. In fact, Friday night when we were sound checking, it was at night. So we had all the lights on, of course, stage lights, and it was raining. Of course, we're covered by the deck, but it's like, looking out there, it's going, man, rain at a heavy metal stadium show is so badass. It's just so fucking cool. But it didn't rain. It was fine. So, of course, Black Sabbath comes out. And, we know, of course, now, that Ozzy can do it, and he's going to do it. Bill Ward, maybe the known, how's this? I hadn't seen Bill Ward play. I think the last time I saw Bill Ward play was in 1998 when they did the New Year's Evil, which was the first night Ozzy came back to Black Sabbath. that in Phoenix, Arizona, New Year's Eve, 1998. I don't think I'd seen Bill play since then. So it was great to see him. Of course, he got a huge applause.
Yeah.
But I think, to me, Geezer was the guy, man. Geezer drove.
Oh, he was crushing.
Dude, he looked great. He was totally coherent. He was there. He was on point. And me and Robert were just going, holy shit. And Geezer's killing, man. And just, to me, really drove the bus. And I've been in gigs like that before too, where it's okay, one of us has got to really kind of step on the gas and get this thing, keep it on the road. And Geezer did it, man. I mean, he was really on point. MVP, I think, So he's our hero. That's why he's freaking Geezer, right? So it was great to see him really, kind of really drive that, which I thought was great. Yeah. Now afterwards, those of us who had the credentials, we could go back and they had a really great after show VIP thing. And it was a bunch of free stuff. I mean, they were giving away clothes. So they had like these cool bags.
Nice.
I got this super bitchin', swag, right? Super bitchin', like.
Those Dixon flannels are great. I love them.
Come on, right? So super cool stuff, right? So they had all that stuff back there. Sharon gave us some passes to go back. So we were going back there and it was kind of this 2-story, kind of thing that they had there backstage. And she said Ozzy was going to come back. And sure enough, there he is. They bring him in, and I was standing there. It was like, oh, wow. So I kind of moved up to the front and, he saw me. He said, hey, come over. Hey. So I went over and said hello real quick. And it was a lot of hoopla, right? And then all of a sudden, I think it was Jack. He was like, hey, everybody quiet. So it gets it quiet down. Everybody's there kind of huddling around. But I was really right in the front. Like there's the Osbourne family. And Ozzy was so happy, man. He was thrilled. He was tickled pink. And it's that after show high.
Oh, right? Yeah.
He was all happy. It was almost like, let's put some more, you know what I mean? And he was pumped. He was totally jacked. And the Osbournes are there. Sharon, Ozzy, Jack, Kelly's there. They've got their baby there. And Sid, her boyfriend from Slipknot, all of a sudden, he starts this speech to Kelly, gets down on his knees, opens a ring, and proposes to her. And,
right.
And you're like, holy shit, like, for real? This is, And Ozzy says, he goes, fucking marrying my daughter, and of course everybody laughs, it's funny. And next thing you know, he slips a big old ring on her finger. You're like, holy shit, like this just happened like 3 feet from all of us. Like, there's like proposal going on, So it was super great moment, super fun. Congratulated Sharon. Hey, congratulations to the mother-in-law, so it was really great. Sharon was just in such a great mood, and everybody was, I think, it was a great family moment. And if I got to say, you've seen the pictures now online of all of us rock stars there with Ozzy.
Yeah.
On the big bat chair. But right after that, the whole family got up there and they did a family photo.
Oh,
and
nice.
Ozzy had, I guess it would have been Kelly's daughter, I guess, in his lap. And that was that to me was probably the most prized moment of the whole thing, was just seeing the Osbourne family there. Everybody's together. And, seeing Ozzy as Grandpa Ozzy, Father Ozzy, husband Ozzy, tomorrow night, rock star Ozzy. But you know what I mean? It just, you see, this is a man who has lived a full life, man. And he's been through every aspect of it. His career's been through every part of it. His family's been through it with him, and to see this end well for them, to me, I think was really, that was the biggest takeaway, for me is, it was great that we were all invited. Of course, we were all thrilled, but it wasn't about us. It was about Ozzy and Black Sabbath. It was about the songs. And it was really just, this was heavy metal Disneyland, man. This really was like going away to heavy metal summer camp.
Right.
It was so cool. It was just bro hugs and selfies and everybody hanging out. And, after they took Ozzy out after the engagement party with Sid and Kelly, next thing you know, Axl's in the room. And so I went up and said hello. I hadn't seen Axl in a long time. And he said, wow, been a minute, So we had our picture taken. And so and he was in a great mood, I went down and saw them in Munich a couple weeks ago, and Axl's kicking ass, man. And I got to say, standing side stage for the Guns N' Roses show yesterday, man, Axl works his fucking ass off, man. I mean, that guy is like doing aerobics up there for those guys play 3.5 hours, man. And I mean, the guy never stops. He's always in motion. He's always dancing and moving, and it's to watch it that close right there. I'm going, man, this guy is a true fucking stallion, man. This guy has he's at our ages that we are, that guy is just on point, man. I mean, what a great rock star, and so that was super great to see him. And right as I was leaving, I saw Tony Iommi there for a minute, so said hello to him and real quick. And, and then right as we were leaving, Axl and his crew came out and they were getting ready to leave. And I was standing there next to Jakey Lee, and he was kind of looking up Jakey Lee up and down. And I said, Axl, have you ever met Jakey Lee? And he goes, no. I said, hey, Jakey Lee Axl. So it's kind of just, this moment, and that's what the whole event was, It was kind of like,
it's like a family reunion / meet some new people. Yeah.
Dude, totally. That's exactly what it was. Hey, Mike Borden, have you ever met someone? And that's what it was. It was just, and I seem to kind of hang and know everybody, and I've kind of been on stage or been on tours with everybody over the years, So, it was just great, man. It was just, the whole thing was such a heartfelt connection, and to play 3 songs was amazing. I'm super honored and glad to be there for that. But it was about the Osbournes. It was about Black Sabbath. It was about, just being at this super baller, badass, heavy metal retirement party, if you will. You know what I mean? And just what a great way, kind of the Osbournes and Sabbath, to let us into their lives so we could, give a big warm hug and, say thank you, for all you've done for all of us, and just keeping it going like they have. So that's it, man. That's it. I think the pictures everybody's putting up says everything. I was looking at news feeds today. Oh my God, everything is Black Sabbath.
My feed, all my feed is that show. And everybody. It was funny how many texts I got about you on stage. Like, everybody's like, dude, your partner up there fucking crush it. Or, it was so, I was like, I was getting secondhand congratulations for you and stuff. And
I appreciate
it was awesome to see that. I posted the photo of you and all the guys. I was like, my podcast co-host and his friends.
I'd say it's good company. It's sometimes you walk in the room, you kind of got, who am I going to know here? We remember each other. Even like Steven Tyler is just, immediate big grins, hugs. Oh my God, great to see you. And, Steven Tyler gave me a call in 1989. And I told him this when we toured with him in 93 there for those few shows. And I told him again, I said, man, I don't know if you remember this, but you gave me a call. You were clean at the time. You were newly sober, I should say. You were newly sober then. And, they were kind of the poster boys for rock and rollers getting clean, and then Motley Crue and everything. And I said, you called me one day. I was waiting for my drug dealer to call. And then I pick up the phone. I'm all excited, think it's my drug dealer. And it's Steven Tyler, giving me the call. And then I'm going, all right, how do I do this? Do I take the sober call with my idol, my hero, Steven Tyler, or do I hang up and go get my drugs, it was just such a funny thing. And so, those of us who have been down those roads, and are now on the sober side of the fence, we've got a lot of stories to share together, and, we've had a journey. And So that's kind of another thing, that which didn't take us out only got us clean and made us better, So there was a lot of that in the room, and that was nice. And the other one was Sammy Hagar, man. He was he's he's like the ultimate like rock and roll frat boy, you know what I mean? He's just Mr. Happy and let's go have a party, and so he loves, because on that last Megadeth album we covered This Planet's on Fire. Right. And, of course I recorded bass on it because me and Dave sat and talked about that song and covering that one. And, so that was, we were just, having a chat on that, so, Sammy's just great, man. So he's such a fun guy. And, so there's just a lot of those kind of connections, just kind of, and then you're kind of friends, it's like making friends with someone at camp, you're friends with them like all week, you sit and you have lunch with them, you hang out with them, and so that's what the whole event was like. It was just, everybody broing down and it was just, what a great summer event to be part of, I mean, I had similar feelings, when we did the Big Four, because it was kind of the same thing, and I saw a great headline today, that, rather than this being Heavy Metal Live Aid, this was Heavy Metal Loud Aid, I like
nice.
that.
Well, I was looking at it. I mean, with every band that played, I actually loved that they only played 2 or 3 songs, 4 or 5, like later you got 4 or 5, but I mean, it was like bam, bam, bam. Rotate the stage, let's keep going. But it was, you're a part of history, David. It was a historical day for music. Like I so hate that I didn't go. Like I was having so bad FOMO like the entire day, and then watching it, and I was like, man, I should have been there, because it was just, with Pantera, Ozzy, Guns N' Roses, Metallica, you guys, just on and on and on. Just everybody there, but everybody there for one purpose. It wasn't to promote the new album. It wasn't to sell some more tickets. It was there to honor Ozzy and to honor Black Sabbath. And I think, it's going to go down. People are going to be watching that show hundreds of years from now because of the enormity of the event. Yeah,
no, you're right, man. It's just, that's one of those times when the heavy metal heavens just part and say, come on in, you know what I mean? So I'm just super thankful to be a part of it.
Yeah.
Grateful for the Osbournes and the whole organization, man. It was just super, super great. So yeah,
absolutely.
That's awesome. It. There you go.
There it is.
Right.